We're learning more this week about the health impact of ultra-processed foods, specifically when it comes to men. A new study is out highlighting the link between ultra-processed foods and heart and reproductive health. Dr. Marla Shapiro is here to tell us more. Good morning, Dr. Marla. Great to see you. We've talked about ultra-processed foods before. Remind us what they are.
So they're anything but clean foods. So if you think of your fruits and your vegetables and your lean proteins as clean food, these are foods that have been manipulated in some way. So if you look at things like your frozen food, your pizza, your fast food, your sugary cereal, chips, any packaged snacks, soft drinks, all of those things. And it's really hard to not have any of this in our diet, but the truth is in Canada, it makes up roughly about 1/2 of our diet in terms of our caloric intake. And if you think about this and say, I'm not going to have any of this, in fact, it's pretty difficult to do. But this study looked at men between the ages of 20 to 35. So we're looking at young, healthy, robust men.
Prime years.
Prime years, and it was what's called a crossover study. They were given the ultra-processed food for a while, and the control group was given a normal diet. Then they crossed them over, and you go onto the ultra-processed food if you were on the normal diet, and if you were on the you're back and forth, so you have comparative groups, so to speak.
And what did the study find?
Well, firstly, what was really startling to me is that with the same calorie count, if you're eating so-called a natural diet, a cleaner diet, versus the calorie count in ultra-processed food, there was a difference of 1 kilogram extra weight. So it's not just the calories. There is something about the ultra-processed food that is impacting your metabolism, whether it's the lack of fiber or the way in which it interacts with our metabolic rate. Calorie for calorie, you gained more weight on the UPC diet. In addition, we found that despite that total caloric intake and the increase in the weight gain, things like cholesterol levels got worse. So your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol, increased. Then that increases your risk for cardiometabolic health in terms of heart health. And then when we looked at reproductive health, which was very concerning, we were looking at age 20 to 35. Those are those key reproductive years. In fact, that we found that men who were on the UPC diet had an impact in terms of spermatogenesis. So that's just, genesis means the making of sperm, so lower sperm count. It impacted on their hormones as well. You could see things like lower testosterone.
From your diet?
From the diet. So we saw lower reproductive hormones and the worse sperm quality and the worse sperm motility. And if you look at the age group in which we're studying, it really does make you sit up and look, because it has huge repercussions in those early years if it impairs your cardiometabolic health, worsening those cardiometabolic parameters like your cholesterol, your lipids, and so on. It can lay down the framework for future risk, whether we're looking at heart and stroke risk, risk of diabetes, and so on. Really startling evidence.
So what's your main takeaway then from this study?
So the main takeaway is that it's very difficult to avoid many of these foods, particularly in our very, very quick grab and eat culture. But what it tells you is that if in fact more than half of your calories are coming from this, it's time to take stock of what you're eating and say, what are the short-term and long-term repercussions? The weight gain was startling to me. The calorie for calorie, you still gain more weight. The long-term repercussions for cardiovascular fitness. So it means you got to be a little bit more of a planner. You've got to think about what am I eating, and is there any way that I can lower the percentage of eating these types of foods, these ultra-processed food, and take a more cleaner approach to my diet if I possibly can.
Dr. Marla, thank you so much. Really appreciate this. I was saying earlier, we talk so much about women's health, but this study looking specifically at men's health and what they're eating, wow.
Made me sit up.
Yeah, thank you for that. We'll see you next week.